I hate to break it to you, but it's time to start your fall garden. My first frost date is about 90 days away. I'm in zone 5, and if I want a proper fall harvest, I need to start my seeds now. If you're in a warmer zone, just count 10 to 12 weeks back from your first frost date. But first, I have to clean this mess. I'm a little embarrassed to show you this space because it's not clean, and I've really tried to keep this space clean. But as things got hectic, I just started dumping things down here. So some of my containers are clean. It's just a mess. So you're seeing it at its worst. Just remember that, okay? It's at its worst. I'm not going to spend a lot of time today going through my setup. I do have a video that I'll link below that goes through exactly what type of grow lights that I have, how my system is set up, and including the timers that I use, because this is on an automatic timer where the lights go on and off for a certain amount of hours a day. If you're interested in starting your garden from seeds, that might be helpful so you can see how mine is set up, and it might give you some ideas for how you would want your grow setup to work. And I do have like a lot of dirty containers. I'm embarrassed to show, but I'm gonna show you. This is real life. This is what happens. And I have some heat mats, and then I have some rec jars. These are my favorite jars. So I picked up 2 boxes of different sizes, and this is what I'm going to be using to store a lot of my seed saving or a lot of the herbs that I dried, which is in the last video that I put up. Anyways, I need to clean up this space, so let me do that real quick. We're officially done. It feels so good to have this clean. Because I just washed these, I'm just going to grab what I need and dry it off, and then also grab the seeds and then bring everything upstairs. Also, I'm gonna grab this mat. This is a seed starting or plant mat, and it helps protect the table that you're starting seeds on. This is from Mackenzie Seeds, I believe, but again, you can buy this on Amazon too. Tuck this in between. So you probably have seen this before. This is a photo box that I use to store all of my seeds. And then I've just used a label maker to put labels on all of the containers. And I love this storage system. It's waterproof, dust proof, everything proof, and just makes the process so much easier. So I'm gonna go through some of the seeds I'm gonna be starting for my fall garden. And I'm gonna be doing a little bit more than I did in my spring garden, just because I wanna pack a punch at the end of the season and get as much out of the garden as possible. Let me get all the seeds together and then we'll be right back. This is everything I'm going to be starting right now. Some things I will start later than others just because of how quickly they germinate. So the first one I have are the brassicas, and in this container I had some baby cabbage pixie. And again, I have a small garden, so I do tend to gravitate towards miniature sized plants. I always find it interesting and they work really well in my garden. I'm going to try some sweet choy. So this is Wawa Sai, and this is going to be great to do some more kimchi in the fall. And then last but not least, I'm going to go with some baby pak choy. And again, I love the Asian greens in the fall and in the spring. I find as the weather cools, a lot of these crops will start to become sweeter and better, crisper in the fall. And even with a little bit of frost, these all work really well. So this is what I'm going to grow in the brassica section. Then for broccolis, you know me, the OGs, gypsy broccoli. I'm gonna be growing this green sprouting broccoli from OSC Seeds. It's an Ontario seed company. And then I'm gonna go in with Atlantis broccoli. I found that with my spring harvest, this one was really interesting to grow and I liked the growth habit of this one. Gypsy I like as well. I'm not gonna be doing Asperbrock broccolini. I think I'm gonna reserve the fall for bigger broccoli heads. Asperbrock is beautiful, is gorgeous. Who knows? I might stick one plant in because it is my favorite broccoli variety. And then kale, I'm gonna grow red boar again. I do have red boar in my garden that's getting attacked by the cabbage moth right now. And I also have lacinato kale, but I always find some fresh kale in the garden for fall is great. All of these things will be covered except for some of these. These things, the kale, the broccoli, the cauliflower, they will be covered from the cabbage moth, so I'm not worried about growing them in the fall. And I highly recommend you do cover your brassicas. Next, we're gonna move to the spinach. So I'm gonna be growing some giant winter in the spinach category, as well as some Bloomsdale Savoy. So any type of seeds that I'm starting for my fall garden, I always try to gravitate to things that are cold hardy or do really, really well in cold weather. Things that can take a frost just in case they're not ready yet and it needs to tip over my first frost day. Giant winter is one of those seeds, and this bad boy, I started it 2 years ago, I believe. Yeah, it was 2 years ago, and I put this in my fall garden. I kept it right through winter. This was one of those years where the winter wasn't that bad, but still, I carried this right through winter, and I was still harvesting this crop right until March the next year. From my fall garden, try to get varieties if you're doing your fall garden and you live in a cold zone like I do in zone 5. Things like this, the giant winter, or any type of crop that is kind of winter hardy or winter related or cold hardy as I call it. Those are the best crops for your fall garden because they will do so well. The key is not to put them outside too soon because they will bolt with all the heat. So try to put them out like late August, September if you can. Not too late that they don't grow and have enough time in some of the summer weather, but not in like extreme heat or they will bolt because they just love cold weather. Moving on from spinach, then I'm gonna add some of these guys. I direct sow and I start beets indoors. My personal favorite is to direct sow, but I'm gonna start some of these indoors. And then I'm also gonna be doing some bunching onions. Fall is a great time to have some bunching onions in your garden. And then over here, I'm gonna be doing some cauliflower. Cauliflower, I grew this cauliflower in my spring garden. I only grew one, and so my goal for my fall garden is to grow more cauliflower. And then I am gonna bring in some sugar snap peas for the fall. I tried sugar lace too. This is supposed to be a bush variety of sugar snap peas, and I personally did not like the growth habit of this in my spring garden. I wasn't getting bush, I was getting vine from this, so I don't know, I'm gonna try it again. And then I'm gonna grow some sugar daddies. Now I would love to have grown the Oregon sugar pod too because that did really, really well in my garden this year. But I do have a bag of it in my freezer already and I don't have any more seeds. So I'm gonna go with those two for now. For flowers, we can't forget the flowers in our fall garden. And I do have a lot of seeds that are out. This is my favorite viola. It's called Rose Antique Gem. And I have no more. And I'm gonna have to do another re-up order of seeds, but that's for later on. So right now, what I am gonna start from seed is the Swiss Giant Pansies. This is absolutely gorgeous, and I think as we head into fall and into Halloween season, the colors, isn't that giving Halloween? I'm gonna grow that, and then alongside that, because I'm growing all of the brassicas, I'm also going to be doing some flowering cabbage. Now, fall's a time when you start to see the flowering cabbage come out, and usually that's at your garden centers. They're usually like $4, $5 per cabbage. And I just find it's really nice to grow them from seed. Now's the time if you want some flowering cabbage in your garden for your fall displays. Start now. No, seriously, start now because these guys take a long time to grow. Okay, so that's it. This is my collection of seeds I'm starting today for my fall garden. I still have some leafy greens like lettuce, arugula, things like that that I will direct sow into the garden. I'm not just growing this for myself. I am growing this for some of my friends to tuck into their garden as well. So I think I need more than one container. I think I need 2 containers for all of this. Some of this will not go into their garden. Some of this is just exclusively for me, like the flowers, but some of them, like the broccoli, the kale, the cabbage, that will go into their garden as well. Again, sharing is caring, right? There's so many seeds here. So let's get started. This is definitely not enough. So one thing I find with seed starting mix, especially the Jiffy seed starting mix, is that it's very dry. I just poured a whole bunch of water into this mix and you don't even see it. It's hydrophobic. So this is why I always recommend, if you're using seed starting mix, that specifically seed starting mix, that you pour water on it first to hydrate the soil. Otherwise, if you try to put this into your seed container and then try to hydrate it, the water's gonna run all the way through the container and it's not gonna hydrate the soil all the way through. So this is why I just recommend, if you are using seed starting mix, that you moisten the soil beforehand. You see how it's becoming moist as time passes. Oh, I just made a mess. For potting mix, I don't find that to be the case. So if you are using potting mix, you can put that right into the container, put your seeds in and then water. But I just find with the seed starting mix, especially Jiffy, Pro Mix is not so bad, but I still do it with Pro Mix. It just makes it so much easier when you're starting seed. This is the consistency that I like. So if you take a handful and you squeeze it, there's still some water dripping out of it. And this is the texture. It's wet, but not too wet and soggy. Okay, I finished with the Jiffy seed starting mix. So I brought in this Pro Mix organic herb and vegetable potting mix. The only problem I have with using the Pro Mix is that I find that I have a higher probability of getting fungus gnats from this mix, especially because this mix was outside, it rained and all of that stuff. So I personally prefer using Jiffy where I can because it's a sterile mix. I'm not gonna get fungus gnats, but as soon as I head to this stuff, that's when I see a higher probability of fungus gnats. Okay, I'm all done. And yeah, I did like to color coordinate. I'm starting with gypsy broccoli just because I have that label here. This is what it looks like. And I think I do have a video clip of what it looks like from the spring garden. And this takes 62 days to mature, so it's gonna be a very quick one. Not as quick as you think. Even though I'm starting these seeds today, I probably will not get this harvested until maybe the first week of October. One thing about starting brassica seeds is you really need to label because the seeds look the same, the seedlings look the same, no matter what the variety or type. So always, always, always label your brassicas because you will not know what they are in their seedling stage. I'm gonna put 1 per container. I always try to stick in 2 or 3 and that's always to my demise. So I'm gonna do 1, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna do 1 per container. So I'm just gonna do a quick little hole. I'm gonna do the entire row of gypsy just because I have 2 other people I'm supplying brassicas to. So I probably will need another tray just to finish off my seed starting. Now you don't wanna plant these too deep. So I'm just making a little tiny divot in the soil and tucking these in. So I'm just gonna close that up. And this is gonna be an interesting experiment because about 1, 2, 3, 5 of these cells have the Jiffy seed starting mix and the other 3 have the Pro Mix potting mix. So it's gonna be interesting which one germinates first. My bet is going to be the Pro Mix. Next, I'm going to be working on the Super Snowball cauliflower, and I'm going to be doing the entire row of cauliflower. This is what it looks like. I grew this one in my spring garden. It was gorgeous. I only grew one plant and I wish I grew more. So what I'm gonna do is try to grow as much as I can for not only me, for my friends, because sharing is caring. Now, my best friend started her garden this year for the very first time. She ordered a raised bed last year. And so this year I went to her house for her birthday, bought her a ton of plants. It was just a fun day in the garden with her as a beginner gardener. And she's been doing so well. She's been harvesting lettuce, she's growing tomatoes, she has a garlic plant there, she has onions, she's already harvested zucchini, she's growing callaloo. She's been doing so well for a beginner gardener. Now, she was a little bit down recently because some of her lettuce bolted. Things were wilting because she assumed because it rained that it was automatically watering the garden and she didn't need a water for that day. And that sometimes is a mistake that we make as gardeners, assuming that just because it rained, that means the garden got enough water. And sometimes that's just not the case. So she learned her lesson there and now she's back on track. Things are looking good and she is back to harvesting. And it's always fun when your friends get involved in gardening for the first time, because you can bring all the seedlings and you can show them all the ropes, and it's just fun to see them harvesting and growing their own food as well. This is the second friend I have that I've introduced into gardening. I had another friend the year before that I also introduced into gardening. And so what I do every year now is just, I'm the seedling person. I'm the one who starts the seeds and bring it over to them. They will buy their own seedlings at the big box store. I just love growing seedlings for my friends and sharing them and seeing their excitement and watching them grow. And I know that when I give them something that it was grown with love, it was grown organically, they don't have to worry about what's in it or what I did to it. So they feel safe taking seedlings from me, and I love that. Let me know in the comments if you also grow seedlings for your friends or family. This entire tray is done, and the last orange row I did green sprouting broccoli. I didn't grow this in the spring, but I have grown this before and it's exactly like Gypsy. And then the other one is Atlantis broccoli. Now this is a mix. I'm trying to remember what the mix is. This is a mix of asparagus and broccoli. I do put vermiculite at the top of my containers when I'm done sprouting seeds. I just find that vermiculite helps to hold in the moisture, and it's been working well for the past few years of topping all of my trays with vermiculite. Now once I've done that, once I've put vermiculite over the entire tray, I do like to spray it and get the vermiculite wet, because remember, this is holding in moisture. So I just like to put a little spritz over the top. This is done, and now we can take this to the grow space in the basement. Okay. Before I start my next batch of seeds, I realized that I don't have any more labels. I'm not going to run to the store to pick up any labels. I am going to place an order on Amazon, but before I do that, because this is immediate and I need labels right away, if I had popsicle sticks, I would use that, but I don't. So what I'm going to do is construct some sort of label system. Now, because these are in containers, I'm going to use toothpicks and painter's tape. Normally I would just use the painter's tape and just create a label like that. But again, because these are all sitting in a tray, I want something that sticks above the soil. So this is what I'm going to do in lieu. And I've done this before when I haven't had labels. This is something I kind of do when I'm in a pinch. So the first is flowering cabbage. Flowering cabbage. Okay, so I have my label that I wrote there, and I'm just going to grab a toothpick. And some of you have probably already done this in the past, or you still do this today, but I find this to be a very cheap and effective way of making labels. So I have my tape, and then I have my toothpick. So I'm just going to go in the middle, approximately in the middle. about right there. And I'm just gonna put it right here. Oops. And then just wrap the tape around and then close it. So this is what it looks like. Not a perfect close. Actually, can I fix that? I can fix it. I prefer not to, but so now we have it covered and it says flowering cabbage, and I just stick this in the containers and that's it. So I'm going to be sitting here for the next little bit making some labels before I start the seeds. I've already filled the other container with soil. I'm just going to be making the label. Okay, I'm all done and I am waving the blue flag. It looks pretty good. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with creating your own labels, especially if it saves you money. So I have all the seedlings here that I'm going to be starting in the other container. I am going to be doubling up in some of the cells just because I don't have a lot of space and I really don't want to have another container of seedlings. Let's drink up, your death look like big fun. Come on, let's get it on. Like that Marvin Gaye song, I'm stunning, you love it. Come on, give me something. I know that you want it. Come on, give me something. The night is young and so are we. So maybe you should leave with me. The night is young. Okay, this second tray is done and I didn't show all of it because I thought it would be somewhat redundant, but I'm going to show you what I planted here. So I have Sugar Lace 2 Sugar Snap peas, one entire row. Then I have baby cabbage for a few rows. And then I have, what is this? What kind of cabbage? Oh, this is the flowering cabbage for my fall containers. Then I have Wawa Sai and bok choy. And then over here I have, what is it? It's hard to, oh. Then I have Swiss giant violas in these 3 cells. And this is heavily seeded, so I will split this out at some point. And then here is an entire row of spinach. So I have the winter spinach, giant winter in these cells, and I have 2 per cell. And then I have Bloomsdale spinach, which is a classic spinach variety. And again, I have 2 per cell, 4 cells of that. So this is the other 32 cell tray. So I'm going to put vermiculite over that and then we're going to head into the basement. So I'll meet you down there. So this is a timer I have for my lighting system, and I have 2 timers, one at the top that controls a few of the lights and then one at the bottom. Now I think I'm going to do the one up here. So I'm just going to change the mode to auto. There we go. I have this on at 16 hours. I think it turns on at 7 a.m. in the morning and then it turns off 16 hours later. Now when I'm starting seeds in the basement, I usually like to do between 14 to 16 hours of daylight and then they go into darkness, and this space is usually dark. So I'm using a riser to get my seedlings closer to the light. I don't have a light system that adjusts up and down, and maybe that's something you want to consider when you're building your grow room, but I just figure using empty boxes just does the trick perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this as is for now. I realized when I bought the Bootstrap Farmer system, I didn't buy the cover for it. So I have these covers from one of my old systems that I'm just kind of putting over the top, kind of like a humidity dome, because I don't have one set up for this system, and that's fine. You could use Ziploc, not Ziploc, you can use saran wrap as well, and that just does the trick. I feel like I'm sweating because that was a lot of work, and it was a lot of running up and down the basement, up from the basement to get a lot of things to the space that I was working in, but everything is done and I'm so happy. One thing I did want to mention is that you didn't see me start cilantro or dill seeds yet. Now, usually I like to direct sow my cilantro into the garden as well as my dill. But what I will do is I'll put them in these containers. So I will do that once I'm done filming. To me, cilantro and dill are so easy to grow in the garden that direct sowing just makes sense. I personally prefer to direct sow seeds so I don't have to start them indoors, and I find that they do so much better in the garden when they're direct sown. On that note, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some inspiration to start your fall garden. I know we're in summer and I'm sweating and it's hot, but now is the time to get your fall garden started so that you can get a harvest. If you're new to this channel, I would love for you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get up to date on all the new videos I'm releasing. And if you're returning, welcome back to my channel and thank you for your support. All right, guys, I'm gonna clean up the mess that I left upstairs. It's a disaster zone, so I'm gonna go do that, but I'll see you in the next one when I harvest garlic. Bye.